Yeah, so I wanted to talk about kind of kind of the inspiration came from this week, some insights, and if we were to put a topic on it, it's kind of that's the Wizard of Oz story of Dorothy. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home, and that wasn't what prompted it, but that's kind of the after effect. The theme. There's no place like home, and the insight I had this week, David, was that there is no out there. And like beyond just an idea, a concept, I started to see how much innocently habitual misunderstanding or living in relationship to an out there when illusion. It was really, really fascinating. And the more I kind of saw it, it's like this process of negating or easing or softening up around those thoughts and ideas just kind of fell off the system. And what I was left with was a deep peace and a joy and like just an overwhelming state of bliss. I'm like, holy smokes. I had kind of a eureka moment, and I go, wow, I think I've really discovered a back door to this idea called be here now. So that's kind of the lead up to it.
Okay.
So like, a lot of people, particularly in the crowds that you and I hang out in, most people have heard the saying, be here now.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that actually mean? What does that actually mean? And that's the problem. People have heard it, but they don't know what it means. And if you don't know what it means, it's like telling you to go bake a cake and you have no recipe, you've got no instructions. You go, well, yeah, that sounds like a great idea to make a cake, but how do I go about that?
Right.
I think that's kind of, the thing with this be here now. It's like, yeah, well, what does that mean?
Right.
And I'm sure someone like yourself, you've probably heard that and considered it. So when you hear, the phrase be here now, what does it mean to you?
Well, interestingly enough, the book I think that was my first personal development book ever. I had a teacher in high school actually hand me that book, and so that's kind of taking me way back.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's a reminder to come back to presence. And what that means to me is like there's typically, or I guess my experience of it is that there's often a lack of thinking. It's more of a being in the moment. Generally not a whole lot of a lot of unnecessary chatter. Like I might be watching a sunset or something, and so I'll be taking in an experience, maybe commenting on it a little bit. But there's not, I guess like it's, to me, there's an absence of like unnecessary thought and mental chatter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I see it, in kind of a similar way. And, as I was gathering my thoughts today, be here now, at least what it looked like this morning, I was sitting having my coffee and writing about it, is be here now looks like having my thinking, my feelings, and my actions aligned. Because here's what I know to be true about human beings is that we live in a world of thought, and we're always in thought. Even if we're watching that sunset, there's still thought on the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't experience a sunset without thought. That's just, because what happens is that's just how the system works. It's like I have, in order to have an experience in the moment, there has to be a couple things present, these universal laws, the principles present, and that's thought and consciousness. Without
Mm,
thought and consciousness, I can't have an experience, right?
right.
Okay. So for me, be here now looks like, well, my thoughts, feelings, and actions are kind of in alignment. Like there's no place to go. I'm home. I'm home with that thought, present moment thought. I'm in the present moment feeling, and my actions would be in alignment with whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So, or inaction, you know. So if I'm watching a sunset um, and all that, then I'm going to have whatever thinking is on the system with regards to sunset, and it's going to put, you know, I'm going to have a feeling, and then I may get up from that sunset and go about and get into my car, walk back to my car, walk back to my house or wherever it is. But my walking will be different
Mm,
than somebody who is in an out there win thinking.
right.
Now, the other thing I want to kind of highlight here is you talked about the sunset, the be here now, and you know, watching a sunset, which is an analogy. Now, part of this back door into be here now is that people innocently think that their peace comes from when I go watch a sunset.
Mm,
Okay. So it's like, oh yeah, how did I get to that be here now state? Oh yeah, I was at the sun. I was watching the sun. Oh, God, it's been months since I've done that. Been down to the beach and had a sunset, and so my peace of mind and my bliss and my be here now. Oh, that's out there when I'm watching a sunset, or that's out there when I finish my yoga practice, or that's out there after I've done whatever other rituals are there.
mm-hmm.
So that's what kind of I'm pointing to. The insight is how much are we living underwater with our out there thinking.
Right. Yeah.
So like, you know, out there thinking can be, well, God, if I just put on a few more pounds, I'd be, my life would be better. You know, if I just lost a few pounds, my life would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, as I sit with this, what's underneath all of this out there thinking, which keeps us out of present moment awareness, okay, is that people are just trying to solve human problems, a human
Mm-hmm.
problem. And the human problem is happiness, love, joy, peace of mind, meaning, impact, purpose. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
like what's happening underneath the hood is every human being existentially is going about their lives trying to solve one of these problems. Okay. And what I'm suggesting is when people wake up to that their solution is a false solution, and their solution is typically a knee-jerk reaction to out there. Okay. Like my happiness would, you know, I'd be happier if I could just clean up my childhood through therapy. Okay. So that's an out there. If I could just get some relief from my past.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my past takes me to an out there. My future takes me to an out there. Okay. Um, so um, yeah, it's like if I could just get this business started, okay, uh, I'd solve my happiness problem, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or if I just you know, if I was able to impact 1 million people, that would solve my impact problem, you know, or my influence problem or my purpose problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all out there. Now, when I start seeing that there is no out there, okay, like, and I see that my happiness and my purpose, um, innocently looks like it would be resolved on an outside in solution. And I go, oh, and I come home to, like Dorothy, there's no place like home, there's no place like home. And I come home to the truth of the matter, and that my peace of mind, well-being, happiness, joy, freedom, purpose, impact is already within me.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped getting hoodwinked into false solutions to an underlying existential problem. And I come home to, and I start to feel and experience the joy that's always been within me. It just, these outside shiny objects just start to fall away.
Mm.
And as they start to fall away, I come home to this really, to our birthright, to the joy that's underneath the hood of the human experience. That's what I experienced this last week.
Mm.
You know, it's like, oh, like my happiness, security, and well-being have nothing to do with what's going on out here at
Mm-hmm.
all. At all. And I started to see like hurrying and rushing around, or trying to please people, or trying to make anything happen. Like that was all out there trying to get me a better life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And as that stuff started to fall away, I realized that's illusionary thinking. Like I'm in the fantasy and the illusion that my experience of life will be better out there when.
Right.
So I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but I wanted to jump on this call with you and throw it out there and tease it out and kind of get some echo with you in terms of what makes sense or doesn't make sense, or what needs clarification, or what bothers you about this idea.
Yeah, I like, let's see, I like the idea of dispelling the illusion that when I get, whatever, the car, a raise, the girl, whatever, that, that somehow, and it seems really real. Like it sure, if you follow follow your thoughts, it seems like, well, of course it's going to be better, when I'm driving that car as opposed to the car that I have. So I like the idea of dispelling that illusion, because I think we've all had times in our lives where we thought that like getting that promotion, would make us happier, and maybe it did, or we got that, that new car and we loved it for a week, and then after that, it just kind of sat in the driveway and we didn't wash it,
Mm-hmm.
So that, I do think that is an illusion. I think that there's some sort of a I don't know, like a counter question that I have. So let's take one of the ones like impacting 1 million people, and like, would that solve your impact problem? I think let's see, if I had that as a desire, if I wanted to impact 1 million people, and I was going about it thinking that that was going to make me happier, and I let go of that, like maybe I still want to pursue that, like maybe I am I feel really inspired to have that kind of an impact, but I could do it from a place of thinking that my life is going to be better, that I'm going to be happier, all of these other, following all these illusions, or I could set all of those aside, somehow, or see through the illusion of that, and still pursue these things, but pursue them from a place of more peace, from a place of more love, from a place of, I don't know, like you're the way that, or some of the words that you used are like your true nature, like moving towards things from a, I don't know, just a more I don't know, grounded, loving, peaceful place. There's something, I don't know, there's some question or something in that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can I still, maybe I am still drawn to those things, but I'm not drawn to them because one day in the future they're going to make a difference. I'm just naturally, I don't know, I'm not sure what the word is, like compelled to move towards something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think you're really onto something. I think you're really onto something. And for me, as these uh, external um, thoughts that would be the solution to my inner problems, if you will, okay, my existential problems. When those start to fall away, like I come home to such a peace and such a bliss, and it's like it just gets really really clear. Like here's what shows up for me is that I'm just guided.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, I'm guided. Like, before we jumped on the call here, I was talking about, it's Sunday today, and I had a real leisurely morning, and I went to grab some coffee, and I was pondering some thoughts and writing them down at the coffee shop, and then I was just inspired to reach out to you to tease these
Hmm.
out. Like this isn't a to do. It's not a checklist. It's not. I don't have anything on it. I just felt called to or
Hmm.
guided to, and that's the place for me. That's where what's making more and more sense to me these days
Mm,
is to be internally guided.
yeah.
But see, if I'm looking to impact, here's the thing: is that to impact means that there's an outer world. What I'm suggesting is there is no out there.
Right.
There is no out there. All right. So impact generally comes from kind of an ego place, is how I see it,
Hmm.
is that there's an out there for me to fix, okay, or to better or improve. But I just don't see it that way. There is no out there. Everything is just arising in the moment, and there really is no in there either.
Mm,
Okay, but that's kind of the best I have in language to point to the origin of the human experience, if that makes any sense. So, um, like for me, this guidance is really big. That's kind of another insight as the layers of outside in thinking kind of fall away,
hmm.
and then I listen. I go, huh? Like even now, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I have no idea what's going to come up, and I just wait.
Hmm.
You know, and then I notice my mind kind of scanning back to good ideas, which are memories. Okay, like um, and I go, oh, those are memories. That's not even fresh anymore. That's already baked goods. You
Hmm.
know, and I just kind of hang out and see, is there anything fresh
Mm,
that's coming in or coming through? But I'm not even looking for it. It's just kind of, you know, um, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. Just staying
right.
staying home. And for me, that is the be here now. But we've backed into it by what I would call the the law of negating. Okay.
Mm,
And what I mean is negating is, oh, I think my happiness is coming from out here. Oh, I think that my security and well-being is coming from out here. Now, I don't know if you read my recent newsletter, but I gave an example of someone that I had an issue with in the last week. And, you know, what got triggered for me was I saw that I innocently thought, now I didn't think this, but I could see the logic. I could see that innocently, I thought that person was responsible for my happiness and security. Okay. And then I'm like, oh, well, that's not really how it works. Like my happiness and security have nothing to do with what's going on out there, even if it looks that way. Okay. And so that's what I'm talking about is negating these misunderstandings of where my happiness, my security, my well-being comes from. You know, like my well-being has nothing to do with how many times I go to the gym in a week. My well-being has nothing to do with my weight, you know, my muscle mass, whatever it is, you know, has nothing to do with it. You know, my well-being has nothing to do with my age. Like an age, you know, I saw something with age too. It's like, oh, like when we get in the age thing, then we start looking at, well, if I, you know, how do I want to be when I'm older? And so I'm out there making decisions in the present moment rather than going, oh, that's all imaginary. That out there is imaginary. Okay. And I'm reacting to that imagination. Okay. In present moment, I'm reacting to that.
Right.
All right. And so I stop reacting to imagination. Okay. And I start opening to my intuition, my inspiration, my wisdom, and my common sense. And then it makes sense to me what to eat or what not to eat. If I eat a piece of cheesecake, I don't make anything of it. Okay. Because see, how much cheesecake I have or don't have, the angst I have around that, okay, is trying to manage or control something out here.
Right.
Like, what's the future me going to look, weigh, feel, whatever it is. All right. So I'm not even having that cheesecake in the moment. I'm having that cheesecake in the future. Or I'm having that beer in the moment. I'm not having the beer in the moment. I'm having it in the future. You know, like that's where guilt and shame and people aren't actually able to enjoy life. They can't enjoy the cheesecake. They can't enjoy the chips. They can't enjoy anything.
Right.
So then they have to control it. And then they go to these polar swings of taking it all out of my life and then having absolutely no control and you know, the gates are wide open, you know, nothing's off limits. And so people go to these polar opposites. Well, what if we just kind of came home to our deeper truth and we actually had access to our wisdom, and our wisdom says, you know, gosh, does it really make sense to have a piece of cheesecake right now? Well, God, I'd really like a piece of cheesecake. Oh, well, can you trust that? Yeah, I could trust that. I get a piece of cheesecake and I really, really enjoy it. Really enjoy it. Maybe an hour later, I have a little stomach ache. I go, well, I really enjoyed it. You know, so I have a stomach ache. I don't make anything of the stomach ache. You know, I go, oh, I got a tummy ache now. Sure, you know, but I don't make anything of it. I just realized, well, I have some thinking in the moment about eating that cheesecake. So I don't know if this is making much sense to you, but it's hard to articulate the insight, um, downstream a bit. But I'm just really, really seeing how innocently I have, and people at large, human beings at large, um, get hoodwinked into their their lives out here, trying to manage, control people's situations themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just no freedom there at all.
Right. One thing that's coming up for me is, so I'm not sure, like if I took a poll of people I know, if they would really be able to make a really big distinction between out there and like outside and inside. What
Mm-hmm.
might make a lot of sense would be present versus future.
Mm.
I think for some people, like like there is no out there, could send their head into a serious
Mm.
tailspin.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was talking with them in terms of like the future versus the present, and so like yeah, if I'm if you're eating that piece of cheesecake and all you're thinking about is like, oh, I'm going to have to do X number of more minutes on the treadmill, or like you're all of your thinking is suddenly going into the future, even imagining the shame that you're going to feel the next day for having eaten it. Then you've just completely missed the present moment
Mm.
opportunity to really enjoy that piece of cheesecake.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, I guess there's other examples that we could pull in, but I think for a lot of people, they could probably catch themselves in the act of worrying about the future. How am I going to pay that bill at the end of the month? I've got a really tough conversation I need to have with a loved one. Like that's going to go terribly, and I just know it. And then they're investing all of these present moments, or this continuous present moment, into worry and fear, and cutting themselves off from a lot of resources in the process. Whereas if they were able to be more, yeah, just present, and yeah, just notice what's arising, what needs to happen. Yeah, I think there's a lot more
Yeah.
from that place. There's a lot more. They have a lot more resources they could draw on to then take the actions that they need to take, I guess is a
Mm-hmm.
simple way to
Mm-hmm.
say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your comments are really on point here, and so I think there's some clarification necessary here, and so the out there, what I'm pointing to is not a concept, but it's a type of thinking and feeling that generates an experience for a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the ability to distinguish that experience. Okay. Like when people think about something out there, okay, you could say they've left the building. Okay. They're no longer present. They're no longer here,
Mm-hmm.
okay, in the moment. So they've left the building. Now, what's what's helpful is that this is helpful to explain how uh, why people are having certain experiences in their life, stress, anxiety, whatever it is. So it, if people are interested in understanding the source of their stress, their frustration, their ailments, their uh, feeling bummed out, okay, if they're interested in that, this points to a really this points to why or how that's occurring for human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I'm suggesting is when people have out there thinking, okay, actually we need to kind of back up. With every thought a human being has, what arises with that simultaneously is a feeling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I didn't know that for years. Okay. But out there thinking always comes with the feeling. And even if the thought is out there about my stocks going up in value or whatever it is, okay, or a bummer or a fear, that out there thinking, what comes with it is some sort of angst,
Mm.
okay? Possibly some excitement, but with that excitement, on the other side of that comes with the possibility of disappointment. Okay, so I'm very vulnerable. Like my peace isn't intact. At best, it's an instant gratification if I get my way.
Mm.
Okay, so it's very vulnerable. That all that out there thinking you could say it's all conditional. So my happiness is conditional of my stocks going up. My security is conditional of that going up. My portfolio maintaining the way it is. My peace of mind is contingent on that. Um, so that's all outside in. So when people realize that out there thinking comes with a feeling, and they start to recognize that, and they start to realize that that doesn't feel like home at all.
Mm.
And people start to see what happens is all human beings, we have this incredible self-correcting system that lets us know when we're moving closer to home or further away from home. And what I'm suggesting is when people wake up to this out there thinking and this feeling, that their system is telling them they're moving further away from home.
Mm.
Okay. Now, what also occurred to me when you were talking, David, was that um, ask anybody to show me there. Show me there.
Mm. Yeah.
Show it to me. Well, they can't.
Right.
Another thing is show me when. Okay. Like when I live in when, um, the byproduct, at least for me, I mean, I'm a recovering worrier, so I spent most of my life betting on when
Mm.
or living in when. But when is not now.
Hmm.
Did that help at all? That
That does. Yeah.
because I liked what you said is like anybody listening to this, new or fresh, this out there is no out there, could throw them in a tailspin. But the context around there is out there is an illusion. That's why there is no out there.
Mm.
It's imaginary thinking. I'm not saying that we don't have a future. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not saying there's not a real world out there. But what I'm pointing to is when we get into not out there thinking, okay, that we create an imaginary or an illusionary world, okay, that it doesn't exist in reality. That's what I
Right.
mean. There is no out there.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I was looking for, like like making the out there more practical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So the distinction would be reality versus illusion, or
right,
reality versus
a made up story in my
uh,
head.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like the reality is, people have rent to pay.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Um, but But the more they think about it, okay, the more bummed out they get, okay, and the more that takes them out of present moment, it takes them out of having a clear head. It interferes with what I was telling you, that common sense, that inkling, that inner wisdom that can guide us. It's
Right.
actually within us, that has our back, that we jam up the system, okay, to make the proper corrections, okay,
Hmm.
to be guided, if you will, with all of this out there thinking,
Right.
and actually reacting to it. Um, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's really clear and helpful. Especially, yeah, for the person that, may not have had a lot of experience with the topic. I think that, yeah, what you said just there was what I was looking for, like something just really tangible and practical that somebody could just, get that part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Like if people realize that if they don't make their mortgage payment, they're still okay.
Right.
You know, they may not like it, but they're still okay. Their security, their peace of mind is still available to them in that moment.
Mm.
That's why you have people in these horrendous, we call them heroes, David,
Hmm.
because they've been in really heinous situations, or really under horrible conditions, yet they were able to find happiness, security, and well-being even in those circumstances.
Hmm.
So that points to the resilience of human beings and what's underneath the hood, if we innocently don't get swept away in our thinking.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That does. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you know, it's funny because this last week, with this insight, I realized I was looking at my finances, and my finances are looking pretty good. Like if I looked at a growth chart, it's like it's just continually going. My net worth, anyways, is continually, on an incline. I'm like, oh wow, that just feels really good, And then I caught myself. I go, oh, Greg, that's what we're talking about here. That's out there. Looking at my spreadsheet or my financial analysis, it's like that's out there. It's like no, your happiness, security, and well-being have nothing to do with what's going on out there,
Mm.
okay, at all. So that's the big idea here in this call. And I don't know that it makes sense to everybody. If people do have questions, I'd suggest you reach out to me, either in the comments here, or you can reach out to me at gregklaumanzer.com, greg@gregklaumanzer.com, or in the comments of wherever people find this recording. Um, one of the things that I do, David, and you're well aware of this, is that actually I was talking to a mutual friend of ours yesterday, bumped into him a couple days ago, Jim Bunch,
Hmm.
and then I was over at the beach yesterday and chatting with him and Greg Rex, and Jim's all, "Us, what are you up to?" I said, "Well, I'm really involved in this kind of this new stuff. I'm super excited with coaching right now." And he's, "Oh, what is it about?" And it's funny, both these guys, they asked me, "So is it personal or interpersonal work? Is it this or is that?" I said, "Well, it's funny because in both cases, I kind of gave them a metaphor. I said, well, back in the day, there used to be these posters that you could get, or kind of artwork, and they had all these little dots on them. And you had to look at these posters long enough until you saw something.
Hmm.
And you'd see either a dolphin there, a wave, or a castle coming out of the sea, or something like that. There was some image there that if you looked at it long enough, it would reveal itself. And so I said, well, that's kind of the work I do now. is that, I invite people in to do 3-day coaching immersions and teach them how their minds work, and share a new paradigm with them called the inside out understanding. And what happens is people start to have insights, much like myself, although I may not be able to articulate them as well as I'd like, but we start to have insights for ourselves and understanding. And it's those insights and understanding that are the transformative nature of the human spirit. Okay? I don't teach people anything. I just teach them how the system works. And I have them look at that poster long enough until they see something for themselves that makes a difference. So that's what I told Jim and Greg the other day. So that being said, most of the immersions I do are 3 days, but I'll be doing a 2-day up in Portland, August 24th and 25th, a 2-day up there. And then the next 3-day I'll be doing will be September 14th, 15th, and 16th here in San Diego. So that's another way for people to kind of, if they are intrigued by this conversation, they can reach out to me and we can talk and see if this makes sense for them, or they can go on my website. I put a video up on my website called The Inside Out Revolution, and that's a real nice little video to take a look at, to see if any of this makes sense in a real short way. And it's a 10-minute animated video. And then people will either go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, I'd like to learn more about that, or they're not interested. And if they're not interested, that's fine.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, any closing thoughts for you here in our time together? By the way, I really appreciate your comments and your insights. I was really going, wow, I was really touched by some of the things that you said.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I can't think of any other. There may be stuff after we wrap up. There may be some other things that come up, but if they do, I'll reach out and we'll hop on and do this again.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the call, David.
Sure, you bet.